The air in that hotel room felt heavier than anything I'd ever breathed before. Not because it was hot, but because she was standing so close to me. Her perfume, that sweet, warm vanilla mixed with something faintly floral, filled the space between us. I could feel the heat from her skin, the tremble in her fingers as they brushed mine. Her eyes locked on my lips. Mine stayed on hers. No words. No need. Just this moment where the only question was whether I was going to ruin my life right then, or walk out before it was too late. Her hand moved to my chest, slow and deliberate. I swallowed hard. I could feel my heartbeat thudding against her palm. And just when I thought she was going to kiss me, I froze. Not because I didn't want it. God, I wanted it. But because somewhere in the back of my mind, a voice said, if you take this step, there's no going back. Before I tell you how her hand ended up there, before I explain the chain of bad decisions that brought me to that room with a married woman, you need to do something for me. Subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, and share this video. Because what you're about to hear isn't the kind of love story you see in the movies. It's the kind that leaves you with a scar. It started in the most ordinary place you could imagine. A little coffee shop on the corner of Maple and Fifth, tucked between a laundromat and a record store that still smelled like old vinyl. I wasn't even supposed to be there that day. I'd had a rough morning, my boss had just chewed me out over something I didn't even do, and I needed a coffee that tasted like an apology. The bell above the door jingled when I walked in, and that's when I saw her. She was sitting alone, near the window, a paperback open in her hands. Sunlight hit her hair in a way that made it look like it had its own halo. Her fingers tapped lightly on the cup in front of her, and she was biting her lip, lost in whatever world the book had her in. I should have just ordered my coffee and left. That's what normal people do. But there was something in the way she glanced up, just for a second, and caught me looking. And instead of looking away, she smiled. Not the polite kind you give to strangers. The kind that feels like it's meant for you. I found myself walking past the empty tables and sitting down across from her without even asking if she minded. Do you always stare at people from across the room, or am I just lucky? She said. I laughed. Well, lucky's one word for it. From that first exchange, it was easy. Too easy. We talked about nothing and everything, how she loved the smell of rain, how I hated mornings, how neither of us liked pineapple on pizza. Her laugh was addictive. And when her phone rang, she didn't answer. She just turned it face down on the table. I didn't think much of it then. I didn't know that moment, that choice, was the first in a long line of things she'd keep hidden from me. If you're still with me, stick around, because what happened after that coffee shop meeting changed the entire course of my life. And it's where I learned that love at first sight can cost you more than you ever thought you had to lose. I told myself I wasn't going to see her again. Not because I didn't want to, hell, she was all I could think about that night, but because something about her didn't feel safe. Not in the she's dangerous kind of way. In the I might not survive what she does to me kind of way. But life has a twisted sense of humor. 2 days later, I saw her again. Same coffee shop. Same seat by the window. Same book in her hands, like she'd been frozen in time just waiting for me to walk in. Only this time, she didn't wait for me to come over. She waved me in. And like a man with no self-control, I went. You again, she said, grinning. Or maybe you again, I shot back. You think I planned this? She asked. I just smiled. I think you hoped for it. We talked for hours. I learned her name, Claire. She told me she worked in interior design, that she had a love for old houses and a weakness for strong coffee. She told me she hated the sound of clocks ticking because it reminded her that time was running out. That should have been my first warning. About halfway through our conversation, her phone rang again. She glanced at it, her smile faltered for a second, then she flipped it face down on the table. Same as last time. Not important? I asked. Not right now, she said, and there was something in her voice that was too casual. Too practiced. I didn't press. I was too wrapped up in the way her eyes held mine, like I was the only person in the world worth looking at. When it got late, I walked her to her car. It was parked under one of those flickering street lamps that made everything look like a scene from an old noir film. She unlocked the door but didn't get in. Instead, she leaned against the car and looked at me. Tell me something honest, she said. I thought for a second, then told her the truth. I've been thinking about kissing you since the moment I sat down. Her lips curled into that dangerous smile. Then why haven't you? I didn't answer. I just stepped closer. Close enough to feel her breath. Close enough to hear my own pulse pounding in my ears. And then, I stopped. Not because I didn't want it. But because I wasn't sure I'd be able to stop at just a kiss. And something told me she wasn't the type to give without taking a piece of you in return. She laughed softly, like she knew exactly what I was thinking. Then she got in her car, started the engine, and drove away, leaving me standing there, wondering if I'd just saved myself, or made the biggest mistake of my life. Somewhere in the middle of this story, I'm going to remind you again, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe. Because if you think you know where this is headed, trust me, you don't. It was a rainy Thursday when I saw her again. The kind of rain that soaks through your coat in seconds, turning the city into a blur of neon reflections and hurried footsteps. I was ducking into a bookstore for cover when I heard her voice. Are you following me now? I turned. Claire was standing there, her hair damp, her coat clinging to her in all the right ways. She was holding an umbrella she clearly hadn't bothered to open. Maybe I am, I said. Maybe I don't mind, she replied. We ended up in a small booth at a dimly lit bar 2 blocks away. The rain kept falling outside, and inside, everything slowed down. We talked. We laughed. We drank more than we should have. By the third round, she was leaning in close enough for me to smell the mix of rain and perfume on her skin. Tell me, she said, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass, are you always this, careful? I raised an eyebrow. Careful? You know what I mean, she said. Like you're holding something back. Like you want to, but you won't. I looked at her. She wasn't wrong. From the moment we met, I'd been holding back, because I knew once I crossed that line, there'd be no going back. The 4th drink was my mistake. It quieted my caution. It made me forget about the little things I'd noticed, the phone calls she ignored, the flicker in her eyes when someone mentioned home, the way she never talked about certain parts of her life. When she said, come with me, I didn't ask where. I just followed. Her apartment was on the top floor of a converted warehouse, all exposed brick and oversized windows. The rain made the city outside look like a moving painting. She tossed her coat on a chair, kicked off her heels, and poured 2 more drinks. Then she sat across from me, curling her legs up under her, watching me like I was the most interesting thing in the room. Do you believe in fate? She asked. I'm starting to, I said. She smiled, slow, knowing, dangerous. And then, just like that, she leaned over the table, her hand on the back of my neck, and kissed me. I should have stopped. I should have walked out. But I didn't. I kissed her back. And in that moment, every warning in my head drowned under the sound of my own heartbeat. Somewhere right here, let me say this, if you're still watching, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe. Because what happened next is the reason my life was never the same. The morning after felt different. Not the usual awkward kind of different. It was quiet. Too quiet. Claire was in the kitchen, making coffee, humming to herself like nothing had changed. But for me, everything had. The way she moved around her apartment like I didn't exist. The way her phone was face down on the counter, screen lighting up every few minutes. The way she'd smile when she saw the messages but never pick up. I wanted to ask her. I wanted to know who was on the other end of those texts. But my better judgment told me to play it cool. So, I said nothing. I just sipped my coffee and watched her, the perfect picture of a woman in control. Later that day, while she was in the shower, my curiosity won. Her phone was right there on the dresser. Unlocked. One swipe and I was staring at a message thread that made my stomach knot. Him, where were you last night? Claire, out with friends. You know how late we stayed. Him, we need to talk tonight. No names. No saved contact photo. Just a number. But I didn't need a label to know what I was looking at. When she came out of the bathroom, I had already put the phone back. She was toweling her hair, smiling at me like nothing had happened. I smiled back. But something in me had shifted. That was the first time I realized, I wasn't her only life. I was just part of it. Halfway reminder, if you're still watching, make sure you hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe. Because the next part of this story is where everything spirals. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay there listening to her breathing beside me, wondering whose name she was whispering in her dreams. By morning, I'd made up my mind. If I was going to keep seeing her, I needed to know exactly what I was stepping into. And that decision, that single choice, would be the start of the end. I followed her. Yeah. I know how that sounds. But when your gut won't let you sleep, you start listening to it. It was a Friday evening. Claire told me she was meeting some girlfriends downtown. Her tone was light, but her eyes were careful. I waited 10 minutes after she left, then got in my car and trailed her at a safe distance. The city was buzzing, neon lights, traffic noise, the kind of energy that hides secrets in plain sight. She didn't go to a bar. She didn't go to a restaurant. She went to a quiet street on the edge of the city and parked outside a small, old-style townhouse. I watched her walk up to the door, knock. And then he answered. Tall. Sharp suit. The kind of man who didn't have to smile to own the room. And when she stepped inside, he kissed her. Not just on the cheek. Not like a friend. Right there, under the yellow porch light, I saw my first sight of the truth, and it burned. I didn't confront her. Not then. I just drove home, sat in the dark, and replayed every moment we'd shared. The way she laughed in bed. The way she'd pull me close when she was cold. The way she never once mentioned a husband. The next time we met, I acted normal. We laughed, we drank, we touched. But inside, I was counting down the moments until I'd let her know I knew. Halfway through the night, I leaned in and whispered. Tell me, when you're with me, do you think about him? She froze. Then pulled back, eyes hard, like I'd just cracked her glass mask. She didn't deny it. She didn't explain. She just said, you were never supposed to find out. And that was it. Our last night. The consequence? I learned that sometimes, love at first sight is just lust in disguise. And when you gamble your heart without knowing the rules, you shouldn't be surprised when you lose. If you've been here from the start, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe. Because the next story I'm going to tell will make this one feel like child's play.